Would George Lucas's Star Wars Sequel Trilogy include Skywalker or Solo twins? Well, let's take a look at some quotes from George and a few other people and try to figure that out. In a 2015 interview with Stephen Colbert, George said,
The original saga was about the father, the children, and the grandchildren. And I mean, that's not a secret to anybody. It's even in the novels and everything. And the children were in their 20s and everything, so it wasn't Phantom Menace again. But so I'm hoping, and they've taken it in a different direction, and I'm hoping I'm excited to see. Since I didn't use my stories, I have no idea what they're doing.
Then, while appearing in a video clip shown to J.J. Abrams, George asked,
JJ, what happened to Darth Vader's grandchildren?
Both quotes imply multiple grandchildren for the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy. Here's a quote from someone I consider to be an unreliable narrator, Lucasfilm executive Pablo Hidalgo. But we'll go over his quotes anyway, because the guy was there whether or not he likes to put a spin on it. Thea and Skylar, or versions of them, were in early treatments with Talon and Maul. Thea's name kept changing. I should note that the early names for the girl were Thea and Kira, and the solo boy was known as Sam and Skylar, so keep that in mind as we won't mention it again. Here's a question that was asked to Pablo. I feel like those names were mentioned in the Art of the Force Awakens book. I'm assuming these were meant to be Leia and Han's kids, cause Luke never married in George's version of the sequel trilogy. Skylar was the son character who merged with the Jedi Killer to become Ben in subsequent development. Notice how he avoids Thea in his reply, choosing to only answer part of the question. I don't think he wants to admit that Thea or Rey was originally a solo twin. Probably because it was the best thing for the story, and he knows that making her a Palpatine was the stupidest thing they could have done, and he doesn't want to hear the backlash. Then a follow-up question was asked. So Kira was always the hero, the chosen one of the trilogy? Based on my understanding, get a Colonel Kurtz-style Luke to train her after he retreated from the galaxy? Pablo responded, yep, that was the core of it. Again, avoiding Thea's lineage. But then we have this other quote from Pablo. Leia and Han had different children. Luke never married. So Leia and Han did have other kids, and who else could it have been other than Thea? The answer is nobody, because Finn and Poe didn't exist yet. Those were J.J. Abrams' creations. Now again, this is speculation, but I believe Pablo knows that revealing the Rey character was originally intended to be Leia's daughter would cause a huge uproar in the fan base. It would be in the headlines of all the entertainment news. People would be making YouTube videos about it. People would be writing on Twitter about how mad they were Disney went away from George's sequel trilogy. It would be a really bad look for Lucasfilm, so they avoid it. So we figured out that Rey and Ben were supposed to be brother and sister, but we still don't know if they were twins. Here's our last Pablo quote. For what it's worth, George was at least willing to read summaries of Jaina and Jacen Solo. Here's another George quote, one you might be familiar with.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Luke and Leia, Jacen and Jaina, Thea and Skylar, I suppose. Disney has locked up George's version of the sequel trilogy in their vault, and we do not have a definitive answer on who the lost Skywalker grandchildren were. Basically, we're not allowed to know. But to me, all the evidence points to George's sequel trilogy having solo twins, much in the same vein as Jaina and Jacen, complete with a fall to the dark side, much like Darth Caedus. And that's just another reason why the expanded universe is closer in spirit to George's intention for the sequel trilogy era, over what Kathleen Kennedy and my least favorite director of all time, J.J. Abrams did.